Okay, so it's about 2 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So today's presentation, this is on one of our most requested topics, and that's 10 reasons Google hates your website and what you can do about it. My name is Allison, and I'll be your moderator for today. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. Just some brief background on me. I'm the marketing coordinator at ThinkShow, so I help manage and implement all of ThinkShow's own marketing initiatives and campaigns. And first, I'll just be going through introducing myself and Chris, going through some housekeeping items, and then we'll go ahead and get started with today's presentation. And then our presenter for today is Chris Peer, our very own Chris Peer, owner and CEO of ThinkShow, and he will be presenting today on the topic. And then just to run through some quick housekeeping items with you. This webinar will be recorded, and you're welcome to ask questions at any time and enter them in the questions box off to the right. And most likely we'll save questions for the end of the webinar. We may be answering some throughout, but more than likely they'll be answered at the end. So hang tight on that. And then we will be asking a few polling questions throughout just to learn a little bit more about you, and then find out, if you found today's webinar to be valuable. And then the slides and the recording will be available after the webinar. So I will follow up with all of you with links to the recording, which will be available on our YouTube channel, and then a link to the slides. And then before I hand it over to Chris, I'd just love to learn a little bit more about who you are. So that brings us to our first polling question, and that is, at what capacity are you here today? So is it marketing, sales, CEO or business owner, or other? And I'll just give about 30 more seconds for everyone to respond. All right, looks like we have a little over half that's voted, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. All right, so it looks like most of everyone that's here, at least on the call right now so far, is marketing. So I think you'll find today's topic to be valuable. And so let's go ahead and get started. Chris, over to you.
Great, thanks, Allison. Welcome, everybody. I just wanted to jump in here and start on the presentation. Looks like my slide went away. There it is. Great. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We've got some friendly faces on the phone, some people familiar to the ThinkShow. We've also got some new faces. We've got a couple different kinds of organizations joining us today. So prior to the session, I did go out and look at everybody's websites. I ran some speed tests just to get familiar with all the brands for the people that I wasn't familiar with. So please do ask questions along the way, and feel free to contact me after today's presentation if you have any specific questions. So today we're going to be talking about Google and the 10 reasons Google hates your website. But first, I thought it'd be really important to talk a little bit about Google and really what's changed over the last couple of years and why this is so important. So first and foremost, Google is dominating the world when it comes to search engine optimization, when it comes to searches in general. And here, if you look at the searches, Google is in blue, and you can see it's just a large percentage of all the searches that are done worldwide, almost 68%, with Bing being second of only 13%. So while we do look at other search engines and optimize for other search engines here at ThinkShow, Google is a big piece of the puzzle. We want to make sure that being the dominant player, we're following Google's rules. A couple things I wanted to talk about with Google first is Google has not only changed the way we search, but it's changed the way we find people, products, companies, and solutions to our problems. Google has changed the way we buy in general. And because of that, we have to adapt and change as sellers. And what a lot of people don't realize or recognize over the years, unless you're in an agency or deeply involved in the website for your company as a marketer, is Google's actually changed the way we have to build websites. They've created the standards and the rules in the industry for how websites are built. So because of that, and because their rules keep changing and they keep updating their algorithms, we have to stay on top of that. So with that being said, what is Google? I want to talk a little bit about what is Google in its simplest forms and its simplest terms. So in its simplest form, Google is a tool we use to find stuff, just to keep it really simple. Not just websites, but maps, directions, expert advice, quality reviews, product information. We use Google to find people. We use Google to get educated on any topic. If you name it, Google's got it indexed. So what is Google's job as it relates to this particular topic and really in general? Google's job is to help you find exactly what you're looking for by providing you with search results that are relevant to your keyword search. So you think about how big Google is and all the technology behind it and all the other services and tools that Google offers, but really in general, Google is a search tool, and its job is to help us find the most important and relevant content for our searches. And so it's those standards that Google creates on website design and development that help improve their job in helping them find us the relevant information we're looking for. So today's webinar is about how your website can take full advantage of Google and how you can become relevant and seen as important by Google so that your website will rank higher, driving more brand awareness, more traffic, more leads, and more sales. So a little bit more about Google's dominance. You'll see here, this is a breakdown of Google by country. And you'll see with China being the primary only anomaly in the group, with Baidu being the large anomaly here. And that's purely because of China banned Google several years ago, primarily because YouTube was showing videos of Chinese security forces basically assaulting and beating some Tibetans. And so China has a very censored internet, and so Google actually started to censor their own program and software just for China, and it caused a lot of challenges. So Google's now trying to get back into China with a project called Dragonfly. Not that this really matters for today's webinar, but I thought I'd just let you know why you see such an anomaly in China. So why should you care about what Google thinks? So Google has algorithm updates in it practically almost twice a day. And these are minor tweaks to the algorithms which help determine search. But you'll also see here, they release some major updates every year, about 1 to 2 a month in general. And typically these major updates really affect the way your website can rank. More recently, Google has announced that it's going to be ranking your mobile website as a dominant factor in how they rank you in search. So this goes far beyond just mobile responsive design, but actually designing your website for mobile first, which we're going to talk a little bit more about as we get through today's presentation. But these are just some of the things that are really important that we have to keep an eye on for you, and as marketers, you need to be aware of. So let's get into the top 10 reasons. Reason number 1, and these aren't necessarily in order of priority. However, they're all 10 of them are extremely important. Your website is too slow. So let's talk through this. Think about Google again. Their job is to get you as a searcher the most relevant and important websites and content to your particular search. And so when Google sends you to a website, they want to make sure that you have a great experience. And here you'll see on this particular slide, we're talking about site speed. So there's a link down here, test my site, thinkwithgoogle.com. You can paste that into a browser and test your own site. I've actually tested everybody's site that was going to come on the call today, and by and large, you're all doing really well. There were a couple outliners. There were a couple websites that were in the 7 and 9 second range. Thankfully, none of them were ThinkShow websites. They're ThinkShow built sites, but everybody else was, in that excellent to good area. So that was really great to see. But again, reason number 1, your website is too slow. This particular site, by the way, this test my site, test your mobile site only. Again, Google's way of saying that mobile is most important. So why does the speed matter? Like I said, it comes down to user experience. A fast site is a positive user experience, and a slow site is a negative experience. Think about every site that you've been to. If it takes too long to load, visitors will quickly just click off. They'll go to another site, they'll go to another competitor, and you'll lose that traffic, you'll lose that lead. So ensuring your site is fast is super important. And why does Google care? As I mentioned before, if the site's fast, Google looks good by referring you to that site. And if not, they look bad. So importantly is also how you can improve your website speed. This particular list here, there's a series of bullet points. Some of these are kind of techy if you're not familiar with the technology behind it. As marketers, you may all understand these bullet points, but some of the other folks that may be joining the call may not be in marketing and may not understand these. Just call us after the webinar and we'll be happy to talk you through these and come up with some ideas on how you can improve your site speed. But image optimization, the photos on your website, making sure that they're optimized to be as small as possible and still render properly. Minification of CSS and JavaScript. So this is basically at a code level. This is something a developer or programmer will need to assist with. Your server, the server that your website is hosted on has a really important component to your website speed. It's how quickly does that server serve up your website. And then for anybody in international business or that's serving up even across the country, if your server's in California and needs to serve up somebody in New York, it's just that extra time it takes to serve up. So there are some solutions for hosting in multiple servers across the world. HTTP requests, this is basically how many times your website is asking the browser to load information. Minimizing those can help with your site speed. And then you can enable compression, which will compress your images and your scripts to load faster. Browser caching, and then prioritizing the loading of the elements. So basically, if you do have some larger photos or images or videos on the site and you can't get them down any smaller, you can actually prioritize them to load later so that people can start reading your content. That could also be a way to improve the experience. And then use of a CDN. A CDN is a content delivery network. This is similar to having your hosting on different servers throughout the country. You can actually have your content and your images hosted on different servers throughout the world, which will improve your load speeds. And then reduce redirects. A redirect is kind of like if you move your house and you move to a new location, you do mail forwarding. Every time you have to redirect it, it takes more seconds or fractions of a second for a page to load. So you want to reduce those. So this is a general list. Again, if you have any more specific questions, there's ways to find out also which of these areas your website is having the most challenges in. There's a website, and you'll see it listed at the end of this deck. We provide a number of resources for you. It's called webpagetest.org. It's free, and you can actually get a listing. It'll show you every area that your website speed is an issue. So let's move on to reason number 2. Your website isn't mobile optimized. So I think everybody today is familiar with mobile responsive design, but it really goes more than that. A lot of people created mobile responsive design just so that the website would render properly on a mobile device, which does improve the user experience for the visitor, but it also tells Google that you're paying attention to mobile, which is important. So what we're talking about here is really a little bit more beyond that. It's now a priority to look at your website from a mobile-first perspective, which means we should be building websites for mobile devices before we start thinking about the desktop versions. So you'll see as an example here, this is an example of a mobile responsive design to some degree. All the content on this particular site is showing up, it's just shrinking it down. However, this is a better example on the right here of a mobile responsive website where you're actually resizing your images and your text and get everything that fits what's very, very easily read on a mobile device. So why is this important? Mobile search and mobile traffic to websites actually surpassed desktop traffic in 2015, and that number continues to go up and up. So if you have Google Analytics hooked up and you can look at your mobile traffic, at ThinkShow here in business to business, we specialize in business to business organizations. Most of our customers are about 50% mobile, 50% desktop. Some are 60 or 70% mobile, and some companies are 10 to 15% of their traffic comes from mobile. But regardless of where you're at in that spectrum, it's really important that you're giving, even if it's 10%, you're giving that 10% of your traffic a great experience, because you have no idea if that one person in that 10% is your next $1 million client. So really think about your website from a mobile perspective. There's just a little bit more information here on mobile and how it's continuing to change. So really what we're looking at here is by country, and it's not just a mobile only or a desktop only, it's the amount of visitors that are coming to your website from both a desktop and a mobile device. And you'll see here a large majority of people throughout the world, they're using more than one device to visit your website. So again, even that larger percentage of people that are coming from a desktop, they're still checking you out on the iPhone or an iPad or a tablet or a mobile device at some point. And these are some tools and just some basic thoughts on considering your mobile responsive design. Flash animations, you don't see a lot of them anymore, but I see them occasionally. But Flash typically doesn't render on all mobile devices, so it'll break and actually won't work at all. So you want to eliminate Flash from your mobile website. AMP is accelerated mobile pages. That's just more of a technology to help you load the website faster on mobile. And then fat finger design, for people with those big fat fingers, you want them to be able to click easily and navigate through your website, click on your phone number or get through the navigation. Font size. I know I can't see anything anymore as my eyes are getting worse and worse. So, making sure that the fonts are larger on a mobile device. We talked about mobile responsive design, and then simple things like don't throw in pop-ups and such. That real estate that you have on a mobile device is just really valuable. So you don't want to be throwing pop-ups to people throughout their experience. So hopefully these particular components help you on mobile responsive design. Again, there's so much more into it, but just a very big consideration here is our number 2 item on the list. So reason number 3 that Google hates your website. No one's linking to your website. So you think about linking strategies or outbound linking, inbound linking strategies. It's really, really important that you think of linking as almost like a big networking event. And Google wants to know who you're hanging out with at that event. And so basically, as it says here, Google interprets a link from page A to page B as a vote by page A for page B. And it's also really important of the websites that you're currently linking to or you do in the future. Websites that are more important, are seen as more relevant in your industry, or are respected, are going to get you more credibility than a small website, or even maybe there's a website that isn't trusted. So Google goes through great lengths to make sure that you're keeping good company, and if you try to cheat the system, they're going to ding you. So again, this slide just reiterates, build that trust, build the authority with respectable websites, get them to link back to your website and vice versa, and don't keep bad company. If there are websites that are linking to you, sometimes you can't prevent it. You can actually say that you don't want that website to link to you anymore. And that's really important to think about. What makes a good link? How trustworthy the site linking to yours is? How popular is it? And then how relevant is the site linking to you in relation to yours? So if it's a completely different industry, a completely different topic, it might not be really relevant. You're not going to get as much link juice for it. And then what keywords in the site using the link pointing to your site? Are they relevant? Are those keywords similar to the keywords that they might find on your site? So for ThinkShow, as an example, sites that we would look to link back to us are sites in the industries that we service, primarily professional services, transportation, manufacturing, distribution, and most B2B companies. But if we were getting, as an example, a link from a business to consumer company, it might not be as powerful for us, is what I'm trying to get to. So reason number 4, your website is hated by Google, is your content is too thin. So content is such a important component of marketing and inbound marketing today, and your website. So here, when we're talking about thin, you want to look at the content on every one of your pages. And one of the things I want to make sure we are not forgetting is video content, graphic content, like photos and infographics. It doesn't have to be just editorial content. And in fact, there's a trend now getting away from more and more editorial content. People don't want to read paragraphs. So this is a really important challenge for websites and website developers and new marketers. It's really making a decision about how much content is good enough, understanding that we want the visitor to your website to have a great experience. So if you load a page with a ton of content and a ton of paragraphs, people aren't going to read it. So there is a balance there. But Google says they're going to reward you if you have 700 words or more. That's a lot of content, and it's very difficult to do and actually keep people engaged. So again, putting that content into videos and then transcribing that on the back end, putting your keywords and other ways to optimize the site are really, really important. If you need more information, because it's a case-by-case basis, if you need more information on content or recommendations, just reach out to us and we can have a little bit more detailed conversation, because it's not as cut and dry as just putting more content on your site. When you're actually looking at the content on your site, you got to ask yourself some questions. Don't have content just for content's sake. Here at ThinkShow, we always take the path of quality content beats out quantity of content every day. So ask yourself a couple questions. Would your visitors or users be upset if the page didn't exist? If it's not valuable and it's not adding to the experience, get rid of it. If the page covers a relevant topic, do your visitors find value in it? So a page might be extremely valuable to you or be very relevant, but maybe it's not written well, or the content on it isn't as well done as it could be. So I wouldn't necessarily delete that page, but maybe rewrite it or reformat it. And I know on the ThinkShow site, we're doing that all the time. Then if you have multiple pages covering the same topic in the same way, get rid of those. You don't want duplicative content, which we're going to talk about in a couple moments as well. But consider consolidating those different pages maybe into one page. Make it more relevant and more valuable. And as I just mentioned, reason number 5 is duplicate content. So we do want to eliminate duplicate content. So what is duplicate content? Basically, it's when you have a page of content or content on your website that is very similar to another page on your website or another page on the internet. So we don't want to plagiarize anybody else ever. We don't want to be copying content and pasting it into our site, or even just making minor tweaks to it. And a lot of people will think that creating more content and having multiple blog articles on the same topic, and they just tweak it a little bit, is going to work. It's actually could actually be a hindrance to you. So you can still have a lot of content on the same topic. Just make sure it's completely written differently. So getting rid of that duplicative content is really important. So why does Google not like this? Google's job, again, is to get you the most relevant, and they want to reward the people that are providing the content or the original authors of that content. And so if they find that other people are cheating and trying to cheat the system, it's their way of policing the internet. And so they will ding you. You can get blacklisted by copying content, although I've never personally seen it. But it can happen, and they can lower your internet rankings or your search rankings if you have a lot of duplicative content on your site. So little overview on duplicative content. Rewrite the content to be unique and useful. Remove the duplicate pages. And then use coded opportunities to identify the original pages. So you can go back and find out which pages are the original ones. Typically, those are going to get you the most juice, and you can rewrite those pages. And then, if possible, you can look on the internet to find out if your website has been, or if you've plagiarized other people or other authors on your site have been. So do everything you can to remove that duplicative content. That's going to be key. And reason number 6, your content isn't optimized. So as we get into writing this content, you want to make sure your content's optimized. And as we look at the website in general, your website, every area of your website can be optimized for search engines. So we have a couple different analogies that we use here at ThinkShow. One's like a restaurant. So at a restaurant, you have the front of the house and you have the back of the house. The front of the house is the wait staff, it's the servers, it's where you're sitting. That's where you see everything. But the back of the house is where all the magic is happening. It's where everybody's cooking. It's where your food is being prepared. And we also use a similar analogy that optimization is kind of like a house, where when you walk through a house, what you see is the couch, the furniture, the paint on the walls, but really behind the walls, there's another whole area of the house, and that's the plumbing and the electrical. It's really, really important to look at your website in the same kind of way and say, well, what visually I can see needs to be optimized, but it's all the stuff you can't see that also needs to be optimized. So let's talk through a little bit about, what those areas are. So here's a screenshot of the ThinkShow website, and we've just put some blue circles here on all these different areas. So up top, you've got your title tag, you've got meta descriptions. Your spelling and your grammar is a really big component. And there are free websites to run spell checks and grammar checks. Make sure you're fixing all those. Your header tag is typically the main title of the page. This is typically what's called an H1 tag. Your image file size, we've talked about image optimization already. Internal linking. So internal linking is another great way to drive people through your website and get them to click on more pages. And that's just putting a hyperlink to another page on your site. So you're pulling people through, not just through the main navigation, but through the content as well. And then you're looking at your keyword density. So do you have a keyword strategy, and are you leveraging that throughout the website? Your alt tags, these are tags that are on images. So you can optimize every one of the images on your website should be optimized, and there should be alt tags that describe what that image is. This is also extremely important for vision impaired people, where they can roll over images and their computer will actually have an audio alert as to what that image is all about. So again, you got to start thinking about all these components and the experience that every visitor to your website can have. But also some of these components, especially the behind the scenes ones, like your meta descriptions and your alt tags, these are all things that Google can see as well. So reason number 7, users aren't engaging with your website. So this is, again, probably, in my opinion, one of the more important components of all this. If you get all the greatest search engine optimization in the world, you're driving a lot of traffic, but people aren't engaging with the site, you're still missing the boat. You're missing all the leads and all the opportunities. So when we talk about site engagement, we're really talking about all the actions a visitor takes on your website. We want them to get in there, and then we want them to stay for as long a time as we can hold them. We want to educate them. We want to keep them. So what we don't want them to do is bounce. And a bounce is defined as when a visitor comes to your website, goes to one page, and then leaves. Now, there are some good bounces. A good bounce is when somebody goes to your contact page, gets your address or your phone number, they got what they want, and they left. But if your bounce rate is really high, meaning it's up in the 60s, 70s, 80, 90% of your traffic is bouncing, that represents a very high and improper bounce rate, but also a very negative experience on the website. And what this does is it tells Google that they were driving traffic to your site, but people immediately left because it wasn't what everybody thought it would be. So let's talk a little bit more about things that we can do to drive site engagement. So number 1 is we want to provide valuable content and make sure that we're getting them excited about your product or service. So this can be done in infographics or videos, but again, we want them to have something that they can click into and learn more. People are there to get educated. And if possible, give them something that you can make them do something, whether this is filling out an ROI calculator or an interactive graphic. It's really important that you give them something to do while they're there to help them immerse themselves in your brand and more information about your products and services. And as I mentioned already, interlinking to relevant content. So make sure that your website content, your editorial content, or the written content on your site, you're linking to other pages where maybe there's more information about a specific topic or a service or a product. And then make sure you have call to actions on your website, but also the right call to actions. So these are typically buttons on the site where you're asking somebody, you're alerting somebody that more information is there or there's a desired action. You want them to go and hit the request to quote button or join our mailing list or download this case study or white paper. The right call to actions in the right places can do a lot to reduce your bounce rate and improve that visitor experience. And then just for your knowledge as well, when we think about a bounce rate and we think about what is a good bounce rate versus a bad bounce rate, typically we recommend that customers are under 50% bounce rate. That's typically what the industry considers a fair to good bounce rate. So if you're down around 25% or under, it's extremely excellent. Most of our customers and most of the industry will tell you that you're typically seeing websites around the 40 to 50% range. Anything better than that's pretty darn good. If your website's over 50%, and if it's up in the 70s, something's really wrong. And then you should be working to fix that. So reason number 8, Google hates your website. We're talking about poor site structure here. So what is poor site structure? Really, it's the taxonomy or the hierarchy of your website. At ThinkShow, when we build websites, we have a guide, basically, a guide rule that says we want to be able to get to any page of your website within 2 clicks. Now, that's not always possible, especially if you've got a lot of service divisions or branches and a lot of nested content, but we want to make sure that they're getting to the main pages within 2 clicks. So setting up your website into a hierarchy that not only a visitor can follow, but that Google can index and follow is extremely important. And this happens at the website planning level, but also at the code level. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So your website acts almost like a highway system to Google. So when Google's coming in and they're trying to index your entire site and catalog all your content, they come in and they look at what's called your sitemap. And not all websites have a sitemap for Google to crawl. So if you don't have a sitemap and you want to find out where yours is, or if you have one, just give us a call. We'll be happy to help you identify that. But basically, this is a page of code on your website that tells Google where all your pages are and how to get there. Poor site structures leave users and Google confused. If we confuse them, they leave. They're gone, and Google won't rank you. So really, really important. And the last thing we want to have happen is Google abandon your website because it can't find all of your pages. If their algorithms time out, then your whole website doesn't get cataloged, which means you're not going to have all that search value that you could potentially be having. So here's an example of a sitemap in its really simplest forms. You've got the home page, and then what we do at ThinkShow, and we recommend that others do too, is you group topic-related pages into categories or folders. So the About Us filters down to our team and our history. Your services pages go to all the different services. This is just an easy way to keep it very organized and keep all your pages into that 2-click objective. Now, if your like on this particular example, if the services page, then the healthcare page has other multiple pages, that's okay as well, because what we're trying to do is keep the most important pages as close to the home page and as high up on that hierarchy as possible. It's all right if people need to filter deeper and deeper into the website because they're engaged and because they want more information. But this is a great way to just make sure that you're thinking about your website in an organized manner. So reason number 9, we're getting down to the end here. Reason number 9 is orphaned pages. So what is an orphan page? It's basically a page that can't be found by Google because it's not part of that site structure we just talked about. So you think about all the ways that your website will link to other pages. But what if you created a landing page, or you had a specific page of content that you put up for maybe a trade show or an event, or it was just improperly set up on your website, but it doesn't link to anywhere else. You can't find it through the navigation. This is what we call an orphan page. So it's part of your website, it exists, but it's not really being indexed and it's not adding any value. So when Google runs through your website, it's looking for these pages to follow, and if there's no links to it, it just can't do it. So it's hard because it's hard for Google to find these orphan pages. Look for them on your own. Go through your directory of your website, and this is something that a programmer will probably have to help you do. There's also some tools that can help find these pages, and then link them back into the website or get rid of them altogether. And then once you identify an orphan page, here are a couple more of the options. So as I just mentioned, build a link so it goes back into your website. Make sure your sitemap is included on your site and for Google to index, and make sure that orphan page is part of it. Then you can also submit that page directly to Google via the Google Search Console. Another really great way to just, it's a manual way of telling Google that this page or pages exist. And then reason number 10, and the final reason Google hates your website is not secure. This is one of my personal pet peeves because securing your site is so easy and so inexpensive, yet so many websites are not secured. At SyncShow, it's one of our standard best practices. Every website we do has SSL encryption. And so really the easiest way to see is up on your browser when you type in, like this is a Google Chrome browser. If your website is not secure, it'll say not secure. And some browsers will actually put a pop-up window that says, this website is not secure. Are you sure you want to visit it? That's just a horrible thing to have happen before a prospective customer or visitor comes to your site and they immediately think, does this have a virus? What's insecure about it? When all you have to do is get a $100 a year SSL certificate and have it installed on your site at your hosting company level, and the whole situation's taken care of. So that's probably one of the most important components, low-hanging fruit components that you can fix pretty easily. So why does Google want security on your site? Well, sites that aren't secure can get hacked, people can pull information off of them, and it's not just specific to e-commerce companies anymore. If you have forms on your website, if you're asking questions and people are filling out questions, you don't want people to be able to have their information stolen through your site. So putting that layer of security on there just adds a lot more valuable and security to the site in general. So you'll see here, even if the page doesn't collect information, Google still wants it to be secure, and you get SEO benefits if your website is under SSL encryption. So Google will ding you if you don't. So here, this is actually the Content Marketing Institute, and it says your connection to this site is not secure. So this is ironically one of the leaders in our industry on content marketing, and their whole website wasn't secure. So I'm sure they fixed that by now, hopefully. But this is kind of the message that you can get if even if you are a leader in your industry. It's just sending a wrong impression. So how do you make your site secure? Just purchase and install the SSL certificate. And like I mentioned, it's about $100 a year, maybe $120, depending on the level of security you get. You can usually purchase your SSL certificate through your domain name provider or through your hosting provider. And then ensure Google's indexes the proper version of your site. There are some, when you've got HTTPS or HTTP, there's a secure and unsecure version. Make sure Google does understand that it's secure and that you're indexing the proper site. And then use your sitemap, your 301 redirects, and the Google Search Console to ensure that this all happens properly. And so that's the 10 reasons Google hates your website. I hope you enjoyed it today. We'll just go through a quick recap. and then we'll open it up to another polling question. And if you have any other questions, please do put them through the system, and I'll be happy to answer them. So as you're typing in any questions you may have, the 10 reasons Google hates your site is your site's too slow. You have duplicative content issues. Your site isn't mobile optimized. Your users aren't engaging with your website. You lack quality inbound links. You have a poor site structure. Your content is thin. You have orphaned pages. And your on-page content isn't optimized for search. And lastly, your site's not secure. And then as Allison mentioned, we're going to be sending this link out and the video or the audio recording to all the people that attended today. And here are a bunch of different links to some of the tools that we use and that you can use. I think most of these are free, and you can run some tests on your site to help you improve your ability to be ranked higher.
Great, yeah. So just polling question number 2 here. We just want to find out if you found today's webinar to be valuable. So you strongly agree, neither agree or disagree, or strongly disagree. So I'll just give you a couple seconds to respond here. Great. So it looks like everyone voted. Great. So it looks like everyone either strongly agrees or disagrees or agrees. So that's really good to hear. And we're going to go ahead and get on to questions next because we did get a few that came through. So Chris, the first question I have for you here is, how often would you say you should update your site? And does Google punish you for outdated content?
So outdated content, that's a great question, and I'd probably want to bring in Cassie for that to get a specific. Cassie's our head of SEO here, but I've never heard of getting dinged for outdated content. However, Google will ding you if you're not producing content on a regular basis. So the fact that you have an old article on your website, you're not going to get dinged for that. That could actually be valuable because it shows that you've been in the industry, you're a thought leader for a long period of time. We still get to ThinkShow and to a lot of our customers, they get leads from content that we've published a long time ago. In fact, I won't mention any names, but somebody is on the webinar today at a company, one of our customers that we've been working with for 6 or 7 years, and they landed a very big contract from a customer that was just about 50 miles away from them, from a blog article that we had written 18 months earlier, and this was a couple of years back. So that blog article was older content and really valuable. And Allison, what was the first part of that question? Sorry.
Is how often would you say you should update your site?
So this is something I really feel strongly about, and I feel like your site should be being updated all the time. Years ago, the best practice, or maybe not the best practice, but the general practice was you'd build a website, it would sit there for 2 or 3 years, then you do some minor updates, and then 3 or 4 years after you launched it, you'd build a new site. That's really not the way it should be done anymore. But the websites today are dynamic, they're changing all the time, and the technologies that exist today and the data and analytics that we can track can really help to nail down exactly what's working and what's not. So you should constantly be doing testing on your website, A/B and multivariate testing, looking to see what's working and what's not, changing content, see what's driving leads, see what's driving traffic. So that should be an iterative, ongoing, organic process.
Great. And our second question here is, what are some of your strategies for link building?
Link building's tough. I'll admit, there are some companies out there that specialize just in link building, and I always get a little bit cautious and nervous about them. Some of them are black hat, or they're really frowned upon by Google. So when you're doing link building, you want to make sure that you're not trying to scam the system or working with a company that's just buying you links or putting links on, websites that you don't want to be affiliated with. The best thing that you can do is to either talk to your customers, the industry associations you belong with, and see if they'll put your link on their website and vice versa. But one of the best things you can do, probably the easiest thing, even though it's still difficult, is to create really awesome content. Create content that makes people think and that other people want to share. So if you create an incredible industry piece, maybe it's an ebook or a white paper, or just something that really gets people thinking about the industry or the topic that you want to rank for, and other people share that and put it on their website, or other people want to comment on it or write articles about it, that can be really valuable and important for you. And then lastly, along those same lines, there are people that do want to share, and they actually will reach out to you about link building. They may say, hey, I'm in the same industry, and I'd like to put your content on our website. And we'd like to put your content on our website and vice versa. That can be really powerful as well. You just got to be judicious about who you choose.
Great. So we do have one more question, and the last one we have here, and if anyone has anything else, feel free to submit right now. This is our last one that we have, and that is, do you have any recommendations for website platforms?
Yeah, so the platform your website on is largely dependent upon the objectives for the website. So, starting at, I guess, the more basic level, you've got WordPress. Open source platform, about 60% of the world's websites are built on WordPress. It's free. It's got a lot of capabilities, but it's not for every company. Here at SyncShow, we build a majority of our websites on HubSpot. HubSpot is, in my opinion, a much more advanced platform, but it's definitely a marketing-based website platform. It's really for people that are looking to drive leads, present thought leadership. And then as you get into other platforms which have a much more technical basis, if you want to have a greater integration or greater functionality on automation, there are other platforms out there. Unfortunately, we don't work with them here at SyncShow, but there are some other platforms out there, or custom development solutions you can build into either WordPress or HubSpot as well.
Great.
Was that everything?
That's everything that we have. So thank you, everyone who listened in on today. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I will be sending everyone out a link to the presentation and a link to the recording, which will be available on our YouTube channel later today. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Chris. We'd be happy to answer them. Or if you just want to, talk about something offline, we'd be happy to do so. So I hope everyone has a fun and safe holiday weekend. And if it's sunny outside in your area like it is here, I hope you enjoy the nice weather. So thank you.
Well, thanks, Allison, and thanks everybody for attending today. And if you have any questions, my email and my phone number is at the bottom of the slide. Feel free to give me a call.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Okay.